Thank you for joining me for another episode of Think Your Way to an Epic Life. Today's guest is a powerhouse of purpose and performance. Joshua Kalinowski, better known as JK, is a former professional athlete turned serial entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and a CEO of a portfolio of different companies. Coming from real estate, roofing, solar, cold plunge. We get really into the cold plunge, and I feel challenged, and I hope you will feel challenged too. So enjoy. Hey everybody, Kara here, and I am jumping on with one of my favorite people who also happens to be my co-director of the Life and Transformational Division of the Coaching Nexus, Dr. Ron Stotts.
Hey, everybody. If you ever felt stuck, even though you know you're capable of more, this next part's for you.
We're going to be co-teaching a free Zoom class on July 2nd called What's Really Holding You Back? Spoiler alert, it's not lack of discipline or a broken to-do list.
No, actually, it's usually something happening under the surface, really something in your subconscious that's running the show. Of course, until you notice it.
This class is going to help you spot patterns that keep tripping you up, and more importantly, how to stop letting them sabotage your success.
Yeah, and, don't worry, we're not going to talk at you or feel like you're broken. We've certainly both faced our own inner saboteurs. Let's just say it's more about sharing some wisdom and laughter.
So if you're ready to understand what's really keeping you stuck and know how to shift it, we'd love to have you join us.
Totally free. Just click on the link in the show notes or scan the QR code to grab your spot.
You'll leave a lot lighter, clearer, and more in control of your own story.
We'll see you there.
Josh, thank you so much for joining us on Think Your Way to an Epic Life.
Kara, it is a pleasure to be here. I wish I was more in your surroundings, but I'll take my office for what it's worth. So,
it's not a bad office. My husband said, you really should record from here while we're here. And I thought, okay, we're going to try this. We're going to give this a shot with Josh, and hopefully that you don't have any background noise or any boats going by that's going to kind of mess you up.
it'll just add to the excitement.
There we go. There we go. So let's kind of give me a little bit of background from, let's say, high school up.
You bet. You bet. Yeah. So I grew up in a very small town in Casper, Wyoming. So, if you're familiar with Wyoming, and it's right above Colorado, it's not in Canada. So we are actually below Montana. And Casper is a population of 65,000 people, went to one of the two high schools here locally. Had an amazing opportunity to be a kind of a big fish in a very small pond, and got some recognition at an early stage in my career in baseball. So my favorite team was Colorado Rockies, and got drafted by them, which was amazing. And once again, I might as well have gotten drafted by the New York Yankees. And so it was just an awesome blessing and opportunity. And so went to junior college, got drafted as a second round pick for the Rockies, and got to pursue my dream, my lifelong dream of being a professional athlete, and did that to the age of 26. And then at the age of 26, the jersey came off, my identity came off, everything that I thought I was supposed to be doing, all my potential that I thought I was supposed to achieve really came off. And I spent the next really 14 years of my life on this journey of trying to discover who I am, what my purpose was, and how I could still live an exceptional life, because it felt like it was all lost.
So from 26 to 40-ish,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You've been having this private love affair with you to try and figure out who you are. Is that something everyone should do?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think absolutely everybody should know who they are. I think unfortunately we spend a lot of our time, especially in those early 20s into those 30s, pretending to be somebody that we're not, because we haven't established who we are. We haven't established success. We haven't established our confidence. So we're constantly stealing other people's confidence in life and trying to figure out, like, what am I best at? And so I would say that I didn't necessarily have a love affair. I was really angry with myself for many years. In the disappointment, I was angry with God for why he took the sport away, the thing that I was just absolutely in love with for, my young life. And so it's just a lot of self-discovery that I went over, that I had to go through. And obviously I did this all while the time I was married, I was having children, we were building businesses. So a lot of this was hidden and it wasn't really being exposed. So it was a really long process, but it was obviously, nowadays when I look back on it, it was the best process for me to go through.
Gosh, that's awesome. You've worn a whole lot of hats. You've been a pro athlete, you're an entrepreneur, a speaker, a family man. How do you define success today, Josh?
Well, that's a great question. I would say here's the mistake that I think a lot of people make is that they define themselves by either a purpose that they're living in or a purpose that they're trying to achieve. And through my discovery over the last, now I'm 48 years old, so I'd say over the last 22 years, I've really found that it's not about chasing purpose anymore. Now, there are a lot of people that know their purpose, and I think that is amazing. I think people that have been able to find their purpose and are able to live that out and they find fulfillment, I think is amazing. But what I have personally experienced and what I've experienced with a lot of people, people that I get to lead, people that I get to do life with, is that you need to chase more of your potential in the moment than the purpose that you think you're after. And I really believe that purpose is found in reflection of the years that you were in service. And so I'll know, at the ages 65, 70, 75, when I start to review my life and go, oh, that was the purpose for that life. That was the purpose for that chapter in my life. That's why we went through those failures. That's why I had to grow. That's what I had to learn. And I'll recognize what the purpose was in that time. Right now, I'm just chasing potential. I'm trying to change potential in my life as the best father that I can be, the best husband I can be, the best businessman that I can be, the best friend I can be. All those things, like that's what I look at now as my potential in this moment. Because if I try to chase purpose, I'm just going to get lost in either the unknown or the uncertainty or the failure. And then obviously that takes away from the joy that I find on a day-to-day basis.
Gosh, okay. So when somebody who's watching this and they're going through a really hard time,
Mhm.
something similar to what you went through, let's say that they were the top CEO of some place and somebody new bought it and they were grouchy and they got fired and they have no idea.
Yeah.
And how can you tell them to look at that failure and know that there are gifts in it?
Yeah. Well, I think once again is that if you've wrapped up your identity in that purpose, that moment, right, of being a CFO, of being a CEO, even just look at marriage. Or I talk to a lot of military guys. I have a lot of friends that are military men that have now had to transition into work life and what that looks like. And when that uniform came off, so did everything that they had as their identity. And so I would say that if you're going through a hard time, whether it's, right, we just celebrated so many people, so many young kids graduating high school, right? And that's really hard for those of you that have had kids graduate. Like you've lost that child to the world in a sense, right? They're going on to college, they're leaving the house, they're spreading their wings. And as joyful of a moment that is, it's very hard too because you've also now giving up a piece of them on a day-to-day basis, right? And if your purpose was simply just to be a dad at that point or a mom at that point, you can feel lost because you don't have them anymore. But if you looked at like, hey, for the 18 years that I had them, we chased their potential. And now they're in this next chapter of life of potential. That's where I think that that's so key is because now we can look on and go, okay, now we're into the next chapter of life. We're into the next season of life. What's our potential look like now? And then you can reflect on the past and go, okay, I know why we failed. I know why that we had to change. We know why all these things had to happen to set us up for this next opportunity, this next season of potential that they have and that we have to get to that we have in order to help them out.
How how important is it how quickly you get back up after you're knocked down?
Well, that is a process. I will tell you that. That is one of the things that, for me as an entrepreneur, I've really had to learn. I mean, we call it like funerals, right? Like you're allowed to have a funeral. I think when you're first as an entrepreneur, every setback, every failure, it seems to take days. Like, I mean, it does, and I remember I was actually just having this conversation with my dad, who happens to be one of my closest friends. About 10 years ago, we lost an agent that was somebody that was like an older sister to me. She was a part of the family. She was like best friends with all of my siblings. And I looked at her as an older sister. And in real estate, agents move. Agents make decisions to go to different firms, and that's wonderful. That's great. But as a owner, it's very hard because you pour your life into them. And when she left, it devastated me. And I remember like sitting down in my office, like sitting down and literally crying because I felt like I was a failure as a leader. I felt like I didn't do my job. I felt like she left me, not the company. And it took me a solid 2 weeks to get over that. Well, that was the first arrow. And then eventually I had another arrow. And then eventually I had another arrow. And now I call it the 5 second funeral. So I will have my funeral. I will give it every emotion that I need to in that moment. and then I get to move on. But I've also taken on hundreds of arrows of disappointments and people, either leaving or, things happening that were completely out of my control. But then I look back at it and I go, okay, well, what can I control in those moments? Well, I can control my attitude. I can control how I move forward. I can control how people view me, right? And one phrase that I say a lot to our leadership and also hold myself accountable is we're going to go through seasons of hardship. I want to be able to look back at that season and look how I responded to that hardship. So how am I going to remember myself in this moment? Because I'm going to reflect on it. I'm going to look back and I'm going to be proud of myself in that moment. And so that's really been helpful when it comes to dealing with disappointment and failure is I know I'm going to look back on this. I need to be proud of myself when I go through that.
Whew, you're an amazing man, Josh. I have heard it said a 15-minute funeral.
Mhm.
A 5-second funeral? Wow. I mean, wow. I'm not wasting any time. And I know I have a coaching client right now that when we first started working together, if someone upset him, it would take him weeks. He would be down. He wouldn't be able to function for weeks. And now I ask him if somebody did that to you now, he said, "Oh, I ain't got time for that."
Yeah.
You grow in that. You talk an awful lot about legacy. What is
Uh-huh.
important about legacy to you?
Well, when I was younger, I chased legacy as if the world was going to remember me. And I think there's something really great about that because what it does is it aspires you as a youthful person to really chase big dreams. Dreams that you're not capable of achieving, dreams that get you out of bed when you might not want to get out of bed. But I think as you get older, at least what I've experienced when you get older, you start to prioritize things in life. And once again, just going back to purpose, I don't like if you have a purpose when you're at 25 years old, more than likely your purpose at the age of 45 or 65 is going to be different. And that's why I think it's so important not to chase purpose and chase potential instead. But when it comes to legacy, what I want to be known for is what I leave in people more than I leave to people. And everything that we do, from how we are building our family, everything that we do, how we're building our corporation and our enterprise, is about leaving that legacy in other people and helping them. Like we know our legacy is going to be experienced through other people, not by the buildings that we build, not by the bank accounts that we have, not by the businesses that we have necessarily, but the people that are involved in it. And what we're trying to do is change generations. And so giving those opportunities for the next generation to take the legacy that we built and built upon and built it even more, right? Mark Batterson is one of my favorite authors. And he talks about this idea of legacy is like legacy isn't necessarily what you're going to be able to do through that time of your life. It's what other people are going to be able to do through their time of life because of you. And I just have taken that on for many years, and that's really what we think legacy is in our companies and in our personal life.
That's awesome. What is your daily pill?
Oh, the daily pill. Okay. Well, I love that you have brought that up. I really feel I talk to so many leaders on a regular basis that struggle finding joy in their life. They struggle finding daily happiness in their life as well too. And we know that there's a difference between happiness and joy, right? Happiness. Here's something that I'm just going to break a myth for everybody. Um, there's an old saying that says that you can't buy happiness, and I will say that's absolutely wrong. You can definitely buy happiness. And I'll give you a really quick case study on this. So I've got 4 children, 2 boys, 2 girls. The 2 youngest are girls. And our youngest daughter, Gracie, wakes up every single day with the biggest smile, happy to like, she is so excited about the day. Now I've got a teenage daughter that doesn't feel the same way. She does not enjoy her mornings. But Gracie, if I took her to ice cream every night, she has the biggest smile. She is so happy. And guess what? That brings me joy. That brings me happiness. So by me investing $7 on an ice cream cone, I can bring happiness to my day, right? I've got a company that every time we go on a road trip, we always upgrade to business class. And I take one of my children with me because it's our chili dip ice spas. We always go to great events, it's sporting events, but I will always upgrade to business class because I want them to experience what it feels like to be in first class. It's just amazing. And as much as I love it, I love watching them in first class. That brings me so much happiness in my life. And so I would say that if you're searching for happiness, what are you doing on a regular basis to purchase that happiness? If it means that you have to you're going to take your kids out to ice cream, buy the happiness. If you're going to upgrade to first class, buy the happiness. It's totally fine. The pill is more about finding joy in life. And I went through a very long season where, because I wasn't either feeling like I was successful or because I felt like I was behind the eight ball and wasn't achieving or at the success that I should have been at my age, I didn't have a lot of joy in my life. And I came up with a acronym to 4 daily habits that if I knew that if I put these things into my day every day, that I'd be making steps forward. And these were the things that I could control. And so what I recognize is that every single day I took the pill. The P stands for something painful. I think unfortunately we find ourselves, especially as older people, getting into like older. When I say older, I'm talking like mid 40s, by the way. So I'm 48, so we're in our older generation, right? Um, is that we can live in complacency very easily. Nobody's there to tell us we need to do the hard work. Nobody's telling us that we need to do the hard thing anymore. And so complacency, I think, kills so many things such as motivation, it kills inspiration, it kills excitement and joy, all these things, right? So every single day I needed to do something painful, something hard. And for me, that was getting into a cold shower at that time in my life. It was uncomfortable. It was miserable, right? The thing about stress with the body is that unfortunately, the body doesn't know if it's stress coming from work related or outside influences, or if it's coming from inside, meaning that you're putting your body through stress. Okay. It reacts the same way. And so once I knew that if I could put myself through stress, intentional stress, then I'm building up that foundation of being able to deal with stress on a regular basis. I know that you deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of real estate professionals. Stress is a part of our job description on a daily basis. And the thing is that you don't even know how much stress you're going to deal with because you don't know what you're walking into that day. So if you can put yourself through intentional stress first thing in the morning, such as a hard workout, such as going into a cold plunge, something like that, well, what you're doing is you're building capacity to take on even bigger points of stress, and you'll know how to handle it. And so I needed to do that personally. I needed to get uncomfortable as soon as I could in the morning. So I do something painful. I do something intentional every day, right? How many times do we go through the day and we're like, the day just got away from me? I have no idea. I just reacted to emails. I reacted to phone calls. I don't think I got anything done. And you don't feel like you moved forward. So if you can do this, if you do something painful every day, if you do something intentional every day, so the intentional thing could be sending a text to a loved one. It could be intentionally doing something that is helping move the business forward. Those things are super important because now you start building trust with yourself that you're capable of actually doing things, right? The other thing is L, the first L is lazy. As adults, we are notorious for being lazy. We don't do the lazy thing, and especially in service of other people. And so every single day I try to do something that I'm being lazy at. And two great examples is I hate doing dishes, but my wife really appreciates it if I would do the dishes. I hate taking out the trash. That's why I have two older boys. But I know that at a period in my life, taking out the trash really helped my wife. And so I would do lazy things, but in the benefit of other people, right? And the last thing is this, and this is what we are all guilty of, is I think every single day you've got to do something that you love. Every
Ah,
single day you got to do something that you love. Women are notorious for this, putting themselves last. And unfortunately, when you put yourself last, you run out of day and then you never end up doing it. And it's really hard, especially after years of practicing this, to break that habit. And then you realize one day you're like, why am I not happy? Well, when's the last time you did something that you love to do? When's the last time you did something for yourself, gave yourself permission to do something, right? And it could be a 15-minute walk. It could be a 15-minute, I'm gonna just read a book, 15 minutes of just in silence, right? And then eventually what'll happen is you'll fall in love with that. You'll truly see the like how much better you are as a person, and you're gonna find and create even more time to do that, right? And so every single day, if you could figure out one thing that you love to do, and that could be spending time with other people, it could be spending time by yourself. But if you do that for 10 days in a row, I promise you, you will find happiness again. You will find joy in your life again. And it's just the little things that you do on a daily basis.
gosh, that's a big promise there, Josh.
It's
How
been
many?
proven, I promise.
No, I am backing you 1,000%. I agree. I mean, why do you think I'm here, right now? I'm giving myself permission to put on my oxygen mask. And when I do, and
Yeah.
I'm going to go a little deep here because you mentioned that taking out the trash and doing the dishes was good for your wife. You mentioned that women are the worst at putting themselves last.
Yeah.
What has been the result of you encouraging her to put on her oxygen mask?
Well, I mean, hands down, she shows up better as a mom. Our relationship as husband and wife is so much better. You start to fall in love with this idea of being selfless more than selfish. Unfortunately, what you end up doing is like by neglecting yourself and your healthiness, you become very selfish because now you can't serve to your true potential, right? If your cup is not overflowing, you can't give from an empty cup. And so by doing that, I know that she is more of a powerful woman. She gets to serve in greater capacity. She and I and our marriage is so much more on fire, so much more exciting, right? And all of those, and that's affecting the children. It's affecting our friends. They see it. And so we get to live it out. And I talk about it, a lot about a congruency. We all know people in our lives that are not congruent. They're one way in business, they're one way when they go home.
Right.
And either one could be flip-flop, good or bad. And I made a commitment about 5 years ago when I heard this great message from a gentleman talking about just being congruent. Great leaders are congruent in their life. And so I really took hold of that and saying, okay, I want to be the same person at work as I am at home, or when I'm by myself and nobody's watching, or
Mhm.
when I'm on the road and I'm at an event and nobody necessarily knows me. I want them to know the same Josh everywhere they go. So there's never any discrepancy in that.
That is a beautiful goal. I love it. Okay, so this cold plunge thing. that- I started doing the cold showers a long time ago, and then I kind of just stopped doing them. Tell
Uh-huh.
me why. Why should I do the cold plunge thing? What talk to me about this? Because I
Yeah.
mean, I have so much respect for so many people who do it every day, and it's like,
Yeah.
ah,
Right. Well, I think there's so many different avenues I want to go in, but let me break a false myth here really quick just to put people at ease. Um, women specifically should not get into cold water below 55 degrees. So I just saved you from having to get into 40-degree weather or 40-degree water. Okay. So not saying that you can't get into it, like if you're in that lake or if you're in a river or something like that, that's kind of fun. But when it comes to overall getting into consistent cold temperatures, women specifically should not get in under 55 degrees. It messes with your cortisol level, especially as you get older. It messes with menstrual cycles as well too. And then not only that, but the fat barrier that women have compared to what men have, men actually adapt to cold wet water much easier and faster than women do. Um, that's why women can take much hotter showers than men, but they can't get into cold water and their body can't adapt to it as much as men can. So, FYI, you don't have to be under really, really cold water, nor should you. Okay, so that will hopefully help you get some confidence to go like, I can do this. So we keep our temperature at 55 degrees. And men really don't need to be under 50 degrees. The only reason why you'd want to go under 50 degrees is because of mental fortitude. You're building mental capacity again. Okay. You won't receive any more benefits. In fact, you can actually harm yourself if you get into extremely cold water consistently because of what it does to your internal organs and also to just like the vasospasms that happen. The reason why you want to get into it, the benefits of it, one is that it releases endorphins in your body, which is the good mood endorphins. Those will last up to 6 hours. So
whoa,
if you wake up in the morning and you're just groggy and you're not in a great mood and you're just not feeling refreshed and you have a busy day and you know that you've got a lot of stuff on your plate or you got a lot of speeches you have to give or podcasts or whatever the case may be, get into cold water because it will release the positive endorphins in your body for up to 6 hours and you'll be in a good mood effortlessly. Okay. So that's one benefit. The other benefit is this, is that it releases a vasospasm is where your arteries will collapse and rush all of the blood to your heart and to your brain. They're going to protect the two vital organs in the body. Well, when it does that, first of all, it cleans all of that old blood out. And then when it's released again, you're getting new blood cells, you're getting a release of mitochondria, which is the building blocks of your body. And as we age, we need to get rid of what they call the zombie cells, right? We got to get
right.
rid of these cells consistently. Well, that's a process of allowing to do that for us as we age. So just think of like you're giving yourself an internal shower every time you do that. You're getting rid of old blood cells. The mitochondria is going after the bad fat cells, right? It's burning that, which is a calorie burn, which is really good because it's heating you back up. There's a really interesting molecule called the succinate molecule that is released. When you shiver, it basically amplifies what's happening, right? It amplifies all of the calories that you're burning. So two facts that you want to know. One is that there's in 3 minutes, there's no amount of HIIT workout that you can do that will burn as much calories as a cold shower will.
Really?
So that's positive. So you're burning calories. So that's a good thing, right? Second thing is that there was a study done. Remember Michael Phelps, the greatest Olympic ever. So when he went to Beijing, he was on average burning around 8,400 calories a day, which is massive. I mean, you just think about how many that is. Like that is just insane. When he went to Beijing, the temperature of the water was 3 degrees colder. He went from burning 8,400 calories to over 10,000 calories a day
Holy cow.
simply because the water was 3 degrees colder. So that's once again proof that when you get into cold water, you will start to burn calories and you don't even have to do anything to do it other than withstand a little bit of discomfort. So if that's not enough evidence, I got a lot more, but those are probably the primary things and reasons why you should do it.
Okay, so you know way too much about this to not be in business. So tell us about your business.
Yeah. So one of the things that we have under our holding company is a company called Chili Dip Ice Spas. And we are so excited about it. We manufacture that out of the great state of Wyoming. So we build them out of Wyoming. So they're Wyoming tough, made by Wyoming tough people.
Made
Uh,
in America. Love it.
yeah. And I've been in the industry. I've been in the cold plunge industry, so to speak, as a consumer for the last 4 to 5 years. And so I've really gotten to know all of the good things and all the bad things about the industry as a whole, the products that are being used, the products that are being sold. And I was super frustrated for multiple reasons. Two of them primarily is one is none of them were insulated. So being in the heat, every time I would go into it, it would be at room temperature, right? Second thing is just accessibility, getting in and out of them. I I can do it, but my daughters couldn't. I've got a father that's 72 years old with multiple knee replacements, multiple shoulder, I mean, a little bit overweight, all these things, and he couldn't get into the benefits of this. And so we built one that is mobile. Um, it's the only mobile chili dip that's out there or cold plunge. It's lockable, so it's safety for children. It is officially going to be bear proof. We're in the process of having bears try to get into it this week, as a matter of fact. So it will be that tough. So we're super proud of that. And it's easily accessible. So you can get in and out of it very easy. So my 12-year-old or my 11-year-old daughter can get in and out of it. My 17-year-old father can get into it as well too. So we've really tried to take a look at all of the challenges that people are faced with the cold plunge industry and resolve every one of them. And then we've added some benefits of a towel rack and a drink holder, whether you want a morning coffee or you need that and that encouragement of that beer, liquid courage to take it. And we love it. And the name itself comes from I'll give you a quick background on this if you don't mind. Um,
Please.
so chili dip is a name that was used for Navy SEALs when they would go through their Hell Week. And what they would do is they would tell them they'd be on the beach, they'd be done with their exercises and such. Then they'd come over to the boys and they'd tell them, all right, gentlemen, it's time for a chili dip. So it meant that they had to go into the ocean. So a really good friend of ours, William Branham, 24-year veteran Navy SEAL, came up with that name, and we took to it wholeheartedly from the beginning. So
Oh my gosh, anything that the Navy SEALs come up with is good for me. That's
right,
awesome.
yeah.
That
So,
is awesome. Something else that I had done a little research before we got on, you said most of the other manufacturers make them in black. Why is that
yeah.
such a problem?
Yeah, well, one is that's a heat condenser, right? So it's going to attract the heat to it. Two also is if you have a dark cold plunge, it will delaminate eventually. So even if you do have some insulation in there, within a short period of time, you're going to start to see that it's actually going to delaminate on as well too. So hot for the surface touch, it's going to absorb the heat. You don't want that either. And then of course, also just manufacturing defects will apply to that. So we stay away from the dark colors.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. So you're an amazing man, Josh. I feel like we could probably do 10 different podcasts on 10 different subjects and just go because you just have so much interest. You're interested in so many things, real estate, flipping, holding real estate, all that kind of stuff. With and it seems to me that your faith is a really big piece
Yeah.
of everything that you do.
Mhm.
What can you tell us about that?
Well, I will say it's been a growing process over the years. It's as I told you, I was really angry with God because I felt like either he took it away or I did something to lose my potential in the sport, which I loved. And there was a lot of confusion around that. Like if I serve a loving God, why would you take that away? And I know that a lot of people, whether they've gone through a divorce or a loss of a child or something that has been really massively hard for them to walk through in life, a challenge, I think a lot of people can relate to the fact that sometimes they're just really angry with God because they don't know why. And what it ended up doing is it really allowed me to do some really good soul searching of who I really was. And as I explained before, which I think often happens, is when you wrap your identity into the thing, right? The career, the marriage, being a dad, whatever that is. When devastation happens, you can often lose your identity and you don't really, and you feel lost. And so over the years, being able to figure out who I am and why I am the way I am, forgiveness, I was able to forgive myself for the faults that I had, the mistakes that I'd done, and, the imperfection of life. And I felt like the Lord was really walking with me through that entire process. And so, now having four children and these multiple businesses, I've had to walk in faith in so much of that, trusting that the Lord's got our children covered, trusting that the Lord's got our businesses covered. We just made two really huge hires this week, and they were all done with this idea of like just trusting in the Lord, and and we're not going to be as successful as we want to be without his favor in this. And so to know that it's not all on my shoulders, even though I'm willing to put the weight on my shoulders, is such a blessing for me in these seasons of growth. And that relationship with him has been so vitally important to my confidence, to be able to walk through challenging seasons, and to really even enjoy those moments during it as well too.
Very cool. Very cool. I think sometimes we have to hit what is close to rock bottom to finally
Um,
realize that we don't have it all together and we can't do it on our own.
yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
absolutely.
Man, I tell you, this has been an absolute blast. What books, podcasts, anything like that would you recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, so my one of my favorite podcasts right now is Modern Wisdom with Chris Williams. I think he right now is doing the best next to you, Kara, doing the best interviews. It's been amazing. I love listening to his long form. He just did an amazing one with Alex Hermosi, and it's just I think Alex Hermosi is kind of like the modern day King Solomon, even though he's not necessarily a man of faith, but he's just got a tremendous amount of wisdom. Um, so I love that. I can't get enough of that podcast. And then, books, depending on where you're at with life, I would say if it's a business book, one of my favorite books and the one that I've actually am continuously reading over and over is 10x is easier than 2x by Dan Sullivan.
Okay.
Just an amazing mindset shift of the gap and the gain and how we spend too much time in the gap and not in the gain. But then also just like if you want to 10x your business, you'll actually find that you can do that easier than a 2x as opposed to putting all that weight on your shoulders. And so that's really been helpful for the decisions that we're making, obviously reinventing ourselves as our companies and making sure that we are going to be able to 10x in the future. So this is some of those key hires. So we're actually putting in place some of those things. I would say that if you're a man and you are finding yourself where you feel a little bit lost, maybe a little bit unmotivated, you need that fire again. One of the greatest books for me that changed my life as a 39-year-old, it actually, as I turned 40, it was go time. That was like the pinnacle that was like a defining moment for me. Is a book called Play the Man by Mark Batterson. And that is hands down one book that I continuously hand out to numerous people, numerous men. So if you're looking for that, and I'll end it with one last one. If you are a religious person and you are looking to have a deeper understanding, appreciation for your relationship with the Lord and just really who God is, there's a wonderful book called Awe of God. I'm reading it now. I've read it for the last year and a half. This is my fourth time through it. It is that powerful for me, and I just want it to be a part of my DNA.
Very cool. And I'll throw something in there, guys. On top of that, there is, I don't know where you can see it streaming, but it's called God of Wonders. And
Mm.
there's probably like 3 or 4 different videos, and it is unbelievable. It teaches you things about like the woodpecker when it has to literally close its eyes when it pecks, or the force would throw its eyes out,
Wow.
those kind of things. And it's just like awe-inspiring. So, and
Yeah.
then my last question that I ask everyone, because you are on Think Your Way to an Epic Life,
Uh-huh.
what advice would you give our folks to help them think their way to their own epic life?
I would say stop listening to yourself, start talking to yourself.
Yes, that's my favorite. I say it different, but that's my favorite. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. We are talking to ourselves all the time, and it matters. Everything that we say matters. So please, guys, think through what you say to yourself. JK, you are the man. I am so grateful that you came onto the podcast.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I really have enjoyed this time with you.
Me too.